All right, from that to politics, Jehmu Greene is here. Hey, Jehmu, good to see you.
Hello.
On this humid day in New York, what is going on with this race? It's like neck and neck. Yesterday we talked about the Quinnipiac poll in Florida. Now the other polls show them neck and neck. There's Ford. Ford is in O'Connell, chairman of the Civic Forum PAC, and the co-founder of Project Virginia is with us. Hi, Ford.
Hi. Well, thank you for having me on. How you doing, Jehmu?
Hello, Ford, my favorite Texas Republican.
That means Jehmu has a favorite Texas Republican. Jehmu, what's going on? I mean, shouldn't the President of the United States, as the incumbent, be further ahead?
Look, of course the Obama campaign would like to see, some of these numbers a lot stronger, but the reality is that we are still in a really bad situation when it comes down to Ohio, Nevada, Florida, the very key states, Colorado, and especially as you look at who those coalitions are, voting coalitions that are going to make up the primary, swing factor. I think Obama has Mitt Romney on his heels.
Ford, do you think that the president has Mitt Romney on his heels?
Absolutely not. Mitt Romney is closing the gap, and he's closing it in the primary states. Obviously, Jehmu, touting a DNC talking point, wants to shove it on the previous administration when things were never that bad. But Jehmu is right. This is real. We're talking really about 9 states, and the question is, can Mitt Romney win North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, and Ohio? And if he can, he will likely be the next president of the United States. And if he can't, and President Obama wins just one of those states, he will, remain in office. So we are really down to about a handful of states. And the question is how can either candidate really sort of solidify their footing in those states?
How can they do that?
Well, the bottom line is let's talk about the economy and let's talk about jobs. I mean, unemployment in a lot of these states is much higher. Obviously, in Virginia, it's a little bit lower than national average. But, the question is not only jobs, but what does the future hold in store, and who can do the best job of connecting with Hispanic voters, particularly in the states of Virginia, North Carolina, Florida, Colorado, and Nevada. This is what we're coming down to, jobs and who can make the best sell to Hispanics right now.
Well, I think you do have to look at the unemployment rate in these key states, those 9 states that Governor Romney has to win. He has to bring back over to the Republican column those states that President Obama took in 2008. And unfortunately for Governor Romney, those are states where the unemployment rate is lower than the national average. So Obama goes in with an advantage when it comes to the economy.
Which ones?
Specifically Ohio, Florida, if you're looking at Colorado, Nevada, the key states that this campaign is going to be fought on, they're doing better when it comes to unemployment than the national average. But also, Ford, you mentioned Latino voters, and we've seen a new poll out just today that shows a real problem for Governor Romney. There was an earlier poll, the Fox News Latino poll, that showed Romney pulling about 14% of Latino voters. He's doing a little bit better in this one where he's pulling like around 27%. You ask any Republican operative, anyone who is familiar with the real ground game and the numbers, and they will tell you he has to get up to 40%. He's not anywhere close.
Ford, just a second. Ford, just for a second. Here's the poll. Romney, 27%. He's gone up. We're showing a different one. Let's not show that one yet. We'll get to that. Those are the states. This is the Hispanic poll. Romney's 27%, so he's gone up beyond that 14. But look, President Obama for it is 61%. I mean, it's a blowout, according to this latest poll of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus's Institute gala, where the president spoke. And this latest poll is just from NBC, Wall Street Journal, is 30-some-odd points ahead. Can Romney close that? How does he do it? What does that mean?
Okay, this poll, well, let me say one thing. The unemployment rate in Nevada is the highest in the country, and all those states where the unemployment rate is going down, as you're saying, Jehmu, those are Republican governors who are actually picking up where Obama can't do anything when it comes to regulation and taxes. Now, on to the Hispanic Latino poll. This is a problem for both parties. What you need is for the Republican to win the White House in the battleground states, particularly in states like Florida and Nevada and Colorado, where Hispanics constitute about 20% of the population. What you need is a 60-40 split. President Obama right now is polling at 61%, but he has a small problem. They are not incredibly enthusiastic about voting in this election. So while this poll looks like a large gap, it's not as big as we think, but Mitt Romney certainly has a lot of work to do, and he's got to get up to 40%. Right now he's at 27, and that's just not going to cut it. And frankly, overall, I think both parties need to improve their outreach to Hispanics, because right now Hispanics are sour because really both parties are just throwing rhetoric at them.
Does Marco Rubio change that equation if he's picked as the vice presidential candidate?
You know, polls are suggesting that it wouldn't. We don't really know. We know that Jeb Bush would actually help Mitt Romney with respect to that. We know that Susana Martinez could help with respect to that. We just don't know. But I think you're going to need more than just putting a Hispanic on the ticket. I think that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are going to have to make some real legislative outreach in that area. And that may actually start with something like a Marco Rubio's version of the DREAM Act.
Well, it's interesting. You brought up Susana Martinez, the governor from New Mexico, and she recently actually, took a shot at Governor Romney's comments about immigration reform when he says they should self-deport. She had a very, sharp statement saying she doesn't even understand what does that mean. What does self-deport mean? So I think there are a lot of folks in the Republican Party who are looking to a Rubio or looking to a Susana Martinez as being the savior for Latino votes. But what it comes down to is where Governor Romney has stood on immigration reform and the rhetoric that as now basically the leader of the Republican Party, that he's allowed Latino voters and the whole immigration debate to really come under some very negative rhetoric. The trend for Republicans is in the wrong direction when the majority of babies born in the U.S. now are actually Latinos.
Jehmu, this is an issue for both parties. You're spinning this a little bit. I do agree that Mitt Romney, really, hurt himself in the primary with respect to immigration. But immigration is the fourth most important issue for Hispanics. Number one is jobs. Number two is education. Number three is family values. And number four, then comes immigration. And frankly, on the first three, President Obama is not doing himself any favor. And frankly, he's polling lower than the Democratic brand with Hispanics. This poll is an issue for both parties. Obviously, it is a bigger issue for Mitt Romney and the Republican Party. But let's be honest, I think Hispanics, if they do turn out in the numbers that they traditionally turn out in, could very well be the group to decide this election, and both parties have a lot to work on with respect to them.
Some comments. We get some viewer comments. This is from Charles. Obama's war on capitalism is showing that he is for socialism. He is for big government solutions that will oppress the people into submission, just like we have seen from the current communist countries. These are pretty strong ones. Also another comment from the same person who's watching, Charles. Poll numbers are skewed in favor of the Dems, or to make Mr. Obama feel good about himself. I mean, Jehmu, you've been in the business a long time. How do all these numbers, yesterday we had the president behind Romney by 6 points in Florida, and now let's take a look in Florida. He's ahead by 4 points, according to the NBC Marist poll there. So yesterday in one poll he's down 6, now he's ahead by 4. Look at Ohio. Look at those numbers. They kind of speak to what Ford was saying and what Jehmu was saying about the gap. But let's just discuss about polls for a second. How come they're pretty close, but you guys are professionals. Can you explain this to me, please?
I just have to sigh, Eric, because pollsters we're all in the same business in a sense, and we are seeing a lot more enthusiasm for President Obama than Governor Romney has seen turn out with Republicans, especially as you look at with the Republican primary season that just happened. Turnout was completely depressed within that primary voting. And so who can turn out the base?
But he doesn't have the change, hope and change of 2008.
He has forward. He has forward.
Let me say one thing. I do agree with you that this is going to come out to who can turn out their base, best appeal to independents, and we're looking at a ground game. But I'd like to say something to the sort of Fox News Live viewers. One thing that you need to look at in these polls is how they're sort of polling with landlines versus cell phones, because some of that is a little bit skewed. And also, let's take that WAPO ABC News poll, because that way I can hit on them since they're not any part of this. The one thing I'd like to say is I think that the survey size breakdown was basically 32% Democrats, 22% Republicans, 38% independents. Well, we know that survey is flawed because even when we had low turnout in 2008 on the Republican side, our exit polls were still at 32%. So my advice to the viewers is very simple. Look at the survey split between independents, Republicans, and Democrats, and also check out how they're polling between landlines and cell phones. Good tip. That way you can compare these.
My advice to viewers is pick your candidate and actually get involved in the campaign separate from just talking about what the polls are reporting, but get on the ground. If you are engaged in this election by talking to your neighbors, I feel like 2008, separate from the partisan aspect of President Obama, the hope and change factor, it was a really great year to see so many new voters participating in the process. If we can recapture that, that would be a step in the right direction.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, Jehmu. I do think that people really need to get involved in this process because this is a very important election. But I would love for you guys to talk to your neighbors because hope and change has become despair and joblessness. So, hey, I'm with you. Talk to the neighbors.
That is another theme, Jehmu, that, that President Obama, because of the historical importance of his candidacy and his message, engendered such enthusiasm, especially from young people, and now so many people are disappointed. You've got that Republican ad of the mother at the kitchen table who has the grown-up kids from college. They're home, they can't get jobs, and there is a real sense, whether Republican or Democrat, that he has not delivered on the rhetoric of the past. So how can they? Is it possible to even try to turn that around?
I do believe that this election has to be a conversation about the economy. And why is Governor Romney running away from his economic record in Massachusetts?
But
he wasn't able to create any jobs.
Let's
have that conversation.
But let me just say one thing. Others would say that the president and his team were tone deaf on the health care law, that they went after the health care issue, which is very important, but kind of to the expense of the economy.
Well, I think many people who pay their bills every month.
People were very happy to vote for.
Healthcare is a huge part of everyone's bottom line, monthly bills. So I think it's important to not separate that issue out, especially when you look at women who are making most of the financial decisions in households. They know how much healthcare is costing them. They know how they put their children and their husbands first, because sometimes they can't even go to the doctor because those funds just aren't there. So it is a possibility.
Jehmu, it's my turn. I've been very patient here. Okay, first of all, President Obama, with the greatest tailwind of all time, basically in a blank slate walked in. Now he has a record, and now he's created a really big mess. And instead of focusing on things like the economy and financial reform, instead he tried to go off on things like health care, and the Supreme Court's going to strike it down. His 4 years have been a waste. He's created a bigger problem. He's created a bigger mess than he inherited, and you guys like to blame it on the other guy. You don't want to take responsibility for your own actions. And the question is, can Mitt Romney develop a compelling personal narrative that spends him as somebody who can clean up messes, as we've seen in Bain, as we've seen, at the Salt Lake Olympics? Mitt Romney is somebody who is skilled at cleaning up messes, and trust me, President Obama's left us with a huge mess.
Well, Ford, can we do this? Can we examine Governor Romney's record, the only time that he was an elected official? Why is that off the table with the campaign? This man had his state, as governor, ranked 47th in the nation as job creation, and he wants voters to believe that he's going to be able to turn it around. You never hear him talk about his record, but you want to talk about Obama's
we're out of
record.
time. Ford, we'll give you the last word, but that could be a really kind of interesting Romney campaign tag.
Well, Romney,
I'll clean up the mess.
It is. And Romney, wages in Massachusetts increased. I worked in the Massachusetts state legislature. You're talking about the most liberal, blue, communist state legislature on the face of the earth. And Mitt Romney worked across the aisle. Oh, my gosh, unlike President Obama, and he paid the price for it. And frankly, when you guys get there and find out that his education reforms in Massachusetts were #1 and you guys are killing the public education sector, I'm telling you, you don't want to go there because you're going to get hurt.
Wow.
47th in the nation under Governor Romney.
And you don't have a net positive
10th in
job.
the nation job creation under a Democratic governor, Deval Patrick.
Jehmu,
the proof is in the pudding, Ford.
Ford is the last word.
Bottom line is, in the Massachusetts legislature, Republicans were more outnumbered than Texans at the Alamo, Jehmu, and you know that. So you can spin it any way you
want. Wonderful to see you. I got to say one thing, though. You went to Swarthmore, right? You remember the football, basketball, and lacrosse teams? Wow.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
I was. Once upon a time, I was an athlete. Now I just get to marvel at them on TV.
All right, great to see you. Thanks so much. And we have to take a break. We'll be right back. A lot more coming up.